I looked up this morning to see who won. I knew that Tom Brady was going to win,
Oh,
but I just wanted to make sure I was on the same page. And yeah,
can Tom
I
Brady
didn't miss
lose
much.
though? Tom Brady, what is he like 45, and he's out there just crushing it
Yeah,
still. Just that
yeah, I
weird.
think he's 43, and they beat the Chiefs. I mean, the Chiefs only had 9 points, so it was it was a miserable game, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's he's one of those like weird human anomalies where it's
Yeah, yeah.
they
At
give him a
43, he should have been gone. He should have been gone in his 30s. So
that's right, and he is still out
yeah,
there
yeah.
crushing it. All right, we're live. Do you do a bit of an intro, an introduction, let people know who you are, what you're about, and we can kick off from there.
Okay, let me ask you. Can they see me?
Yeah, they can see you. Oh, 100%.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Hi.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm very tech illiterate. Everybody who does watch or view, listen to this. So for some reason, my
Yeah.
camera only works in one app, and it just happens to be the one that we're streaming on. So we stream it live. I wanted to keep everything as raw as possible, but on the back end of that,
Yeah.
people can't see me. So
Right.
so
Which
you can't see me.
you're like the Wiz. You're like the Wiz in the Wizard of
That's
Oz.
right. And
Nobody knew who that
that
was.
weird eerie voice in the background, just in your head, just letting letting
Yeah.
everybody know what we're up
Right.
to.
Just sitting there.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I'm Fatima. Yeah, I'm Fatima. I live in America. I live in Columbus, Ohio, and I have 4 boys. And I grew up with 5 brothers, and I was the only girl. And now I'm the only girl in my home now, including my husband. It's five, I guess, groups of testosterone
That's right.
around my house, and then it's me. And I swear sometimes I think they forget that I'm a girl. I really believe that they think
Yep.
that I'm just one of them.
Yep.
And so whenever I have female emotions and act girly, they just don't even know what to do. I strongly believe that.
Yep.
And because I've just been like one of the guys forever since I was a kid, just one of the guys, I guess. And but yep, I'm the only girl, and out of 5 brothers, and now I have 4 boys. And and yeah, I'm born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. I grew up in the harder parts of Las Vegas, Nevada. Believe it or not, there are some harder parts there. Not everything is flashy. If you see that on TV, I lived in the bad parts, and grew up in the badder parts of Las Vegas, Nevada, and and yeah, grew up kind of rough, just like probably a lot of people with a single parent. My father was MIA most of my life, honestly. And, I grew up trying to attach myself to some type of a male figure. And my mom worked tirelessly to try to pay the bills on her own. And she was tough as nails, and unfortunately, sometimes too tough. And it was a rough growing up.
Yep.
I grew up with not a lot of emotional connections at all. It was all about survival and all about getting your butt up and handling business. No time for tears or none of that. And that's the byproduct, I guess, of growing up with all boys. There was no time for softness. Everything was rough and tough.
That's right.
And that's kind of how I am now, a little rough and tough
Yeah.
around the edges.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when you grow up like that, you just sort of become a product of your environment a little bit. You know what I mean? If everything's rough and tough, you become rough and tough, which is unfortunate because it's a very hard thing
Yeah,
to wash
yeah,
away, especially as you become a little bit older. It takes years and years of being a little introspective and digging deep to try and find out like what the fuck is going on in your head, the way you think and feel,
yeah,
especially
yeah.
when you start to create connections where you are allowed to think and feel a little bit, and you're like, this is odd. I don't like it. I just want to go back to that safe space, which just happens to be a shithole.
Yeah.
Um, all
Yeah,
right.
you're right. You're right.
So I guess let's start from the start. Childhood. What was happening?
So, as a kid, I don't know, it was just kind of rough. My mom had two different husbands, so and those stepfathers they weren't the best, honestly. One was physically abusive,
Yep.
another was sexually abusive, and so it really kind of had an atmosphere of you not really knowing how to act or how to be as a child. You just wanted to keep everything calm.
Yep.
I think I grew up very much trying to be the peacemaker just so that my mom wouldn't get abused or me or my brothers wouldn't get
Mm.
abused, just trying to keep everybody happy. And then in the other home where I was sexually abused, there was truly nothing I could have done to
Yeah.
change that narrative. It just, is what it was or was what it was.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was just really trying to find the courage to speak up for myself. But even in all of that, it was just like kind of growing up in a space of a little bit of chaoticness, I guess, and
Yeah.
just trying to accept the fact that not even trying to accept it, but just realizing that that's just how my life was. There, it wasn't like that wasn't normal. That's all I knew. So it was never a time where I felt like this is not right. It was, what am I going to have to survive next? You know?
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's um. So once again, I grew up in a similar sense. I grew up poor. My parents were together. I don't know if that was a fortunate thing or not. I don't know if that sort of inhibited it being as bad as it was. Physically abused. Saw a lot
Yeah.
of drug and alcohol abuse when I was younger. Sexually abused when I was younger. And like you said, you go through this thing of like once again just keeping the peace, and it that I think was the hardest thing to sort of wash away, because you find yourself doing it as an adult. You put up with shit that
Yes, you do.
nobody should put up with. You know what I mean? You go through
Yep.
circumstances, and then there's
Yeah.
a generally, I'm not
Yeah.
speaking for everybody. There's a bit of an overcorrection towards, I did mine in my 20s where I completely overcorrected and I started becoming that thing that I hated, that feeling inside me that I didn't like. I became that person to try and overcorrect and get some sort of sense of stability, I guess. So,
Yeah.
all
Like
right.
boundaries. Like
Yeah.
boundaries. Like you
That,
put these boundaries up,
yeah.
and that's what, once I realized what I didn't like, once I realized what I didn't want to have in my life, then yeah, I decided it's kind of like a hypervigilance where
Yeah.
you're like over vigilant trying to make sure nobody treats you that way. And
Yeah.
so then you become so defensive and
100%.
it's just like not a balance. It's kind of like way over to the other side, but
Yeah.
it's all with the intention of protecting yourself to not feel that horribleness that you felt as a child. And I definitely walked through those um walked through that path, I think a lot I would have to say in my 30s, because I went straight from an abusive home to some point as a child, or as a teenager or young adult. And when I got married the day after my 21st birthday.
Damn.
And I went right into a relationship that eventually turned abusive too. So I didn't really start kind of figuring out who I was or what I didn't want until I left that relationship. So not until I
Yeah.
was in my early 30s did I realize this is unhealthy and I need to make better decisions. And I don't really know how to make better decisions, but I know I don't want that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave that. And then I'm just going to, I guess, hit my head until I figure it out.
That
And
is
that's kind of like that started happening in my 30s.
That is so tough. It's there's a saying that I always stick to. It's you attract the love you think you deserve.
Yeah.
And especially the when you grow up like that, you do attract that type of thing because you can't recognize other forms of love. So
Yeah.
that's nuts that you it just carried on. All right, how did your
Yeah.
brothers handle it? Yeah, growing up with all
Hi-
brothers, did they?
Yeah.
How did they deal with it? Because
See, we didn't really talk. I mean, like you guys, I mean, you having a podcast and you talking about emotional stuff, I'm sure you're like one out of a million because guys don't talk about this stuff.
100% we don't.
You don't talk, right?
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. So the reason why I asked is because like it broke one of my brothers. Like he is still incredibly broken today.
Yeah.
And every time you go to talk to him about it, nothing impacts him, nothing scares him, nothing worries him. I'm a man. I
Yeah.
can fucking.
Yep.
But that's the way we
Right.
grew up. We grew up in
Right.
this very like old old school mentality. You don't cry. You know, like you said, you
Right.
don't feel. You get two feelings, and I had a chat to somebody the other day about it, and it's like you feel happiness, which is a perceived happiness. You know what I mean? You have to, on the outside, be happy, or you feel anger. They're the two things you're allowed to
Yep.
feel, and anything outside of that is weakness. Um,
Absolutely. That is
yeah,
how I live. That's how I grew up.
yes.
That was it. That's how I grew up.
Hey,
So
brother.
if I felt sadness, if I felt fear,
Yeah,
then I was weak. What's wrong with me? Toughen up, right?
yeah.
And then the rage or the anger or rage or flipping out and all of that,
Mm,
that was allowed.
that was allowed.
That part was accepted, right? It was allowed. But being able to sit down and talk like this and express my feelings, this hurt me when hurt. You're hurt, your feelings are hurt. Oh
Yeah,
my God, what's wrong with you? You soft. And that
yeah.
is really how I grew up. And I wasn't even, I mean, usually that's how you're right. That's how you train your boys, right? And
Mm,
even in my generation, that's how we taught our boys. Boys don't cry. You're a sissy if you cry. You're weak if you cry. You're a punk if you cry. So that's how my brothers were raised, but that's also how I was raised.
yeah. Well,
And
yeah.
I wasn't raised any different. There was no difference. I was raised the same way.
Which is crazy. Boys and girls
Yeah.
grow up and develop at different times and different stages. Girls develop a
Yeah.
lot younger. So you would have had a
Yeah.
firm idea of this is fucked very early on. Whereas boys we're a bit slower, we're a bit more daft, so it takes a little longer for it to kick in, but we eventually
Yeah.
get there. But I think by the time it gets there with us, it's too fucking late. Like where the ship has sailed,
Yeah.
and most of us don't want to regress
Yeah.
back into that point where you go, "Fuck, I feel things."
Yeah, it's possible. That's possibly true because I can tell you, like in my like maybe young adult, I felt like, why am I so different than everybody else in my home? I feel so different. Like I feel like I just feel so different. Like I don't process the same way they process. I
Yeah,
don't think I want to fight every time something happens bad. I want to talk about it. They want to fight.
yeah, yeah,
Why? I felt so, but I also felt like the black sheep because that's how I would reason in my head. And because I knew that it would be frowned upon, I just didn't speak it. So I internalized a lot of stuff because the way that I looked at things, the way that I viewed things, my perspectives were looked at as weak perspectives, right? So
yeah,
if I'm not trying to break a bottle and try to fight with everybody else, then I was weak. So
mm.
just stay in the corner and shut up. That's basically what I did.
And that's exactly right. It's if you can't be that 110% that turned up to 11 type
Yeah.
attitude where you're going over the top, yeah,
Right.
it's not accepted.
Right.
I can definitely relate to that. What was high school like?
Yeah.
You wait,
What was
what
high school
do you guys have high school?
like?
What is it? You guys have a weird system. We have just it's primary school, high school,
Yeah.
university.
No,
That's
I
what we
never
got.
got asked that question. High school? Well, I didn't have boyfriends. I mean, I internalized everything. I really focused more into my academics. I was very good at school, but I think that helped me because that's where my focus was at. Like that was the only thing that I could control in my life. So I
Yeah,
focused everything in that area.
yeah,
And but I did the same thing with work. When I got old enough to get jobs, I focused all my attention into that area. So I was always an excellent worker, excellent student. But I think that's because all my harnessed energy, I could focus it there. And
yeah,
that was the one thing that I felt like I had control over. And so, but also in that, that could lean towards I was a control, not a control freak towards other people, but to myself. Like I needed to be excellent.
yeah,
I
yeah,
had to be excellent in whatever I did because it was just a way to I guess just feel like there was one thing I wasn't failing in. Like there was one thing that I was good at. And I never really thought that I was good at much of anything. But in that area, I could control it if I just put my best foot forward and I saw the outcome. So that meant that I could be perfect. I could be excellent in this. And I have driven myself like that, like a machine in everything that I put my hand to. And that's it's good, but it's not. So
yeah,
I had to make sure that as I began to heal from all that stuff and all that trauma from my past, that I also looked into what I was striving for because I was striving. My whole life I've been striving in school at work, striving in my career, striving in my education. And I had to kind of look at it and say, what am I striving after? Like, am I waiting on certain people to tell me I did good? Or am I just doing this because I enjoy it? Or am I doing it because I'm waiting on somebody to clap for me? Like, what is driving me? And so I've had to take a look at that because, like you're saying, everything that we kind of become, it kind of comes from our past.
That's
And
right.
it's like sometimes you got to take a look at what you're doing to make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. And it's not attached to something in your past where you didn't get the attention or where you didn't get the hand clap or the approval, you
That's right.
know? And so for me, I've had to check myself in those areas sometimes and say, Fatima, are you striving in your career or in your education because you just want to see if you can do this, or are you doing it because you have a certain goal? Or are you doing this and continuing to do it because you're waiting on somebody from your past to finally applaud you?
Yeah, right. Do you still struggle with that now?
I do. I like to say that I'm working on that because that's something that was just kind of newly revealed to me, maybe like 3, 4 months ago, where I just started looking at. I'm constantly working on myself, and for me,
Yeah.
God has really been helping me to heal, and I've healed a lot of the big stuff. But now there's these little residue things that I'm
Yeah, yeah.
starting to work on, and the striving is one of those little residue things. So I've definitely been looking at, okay, I love learning. So am I in school because I love learning, or am I in school because I want somebody to say congratulations, you
Yeah,
know?
that's right.
And so just really, really kind of looking at my motives on why I make certain decisions. That's kind of like where I'm at right now, just making sure that the decisions that I make are built from a healthy place and not from a place of neediness. And I think that's a constant thing that we have to do when we've had such trauma in our lives, and the trauma kind of directs every decision that we make. We have to make sure that it's not habitual, but that we are taking ownership of our lives. And that also means ownership of how we make our decisions.
That's spot on. Even just touching back on like you saying like you do certain things for a particular reason. What I always found
Yeah.
that it was very hard for other people to understand, which then put more weight on me trying to understand it. So I'd always get like, well, why are you doing this? So for me, for instance, both of my brothers got pulled out of school in year 8. So I don't know what the equivalent of that is. And then it was sort of like,
Hmm.
Josh, you got to do the same. And I was like, no, like I don't want to do that. And then there was that added pressure of external things going, but why are you doing this? Everybody else is doing something else. And then you're like, because I want to
Hmm.
do something
Got it.
different. I want to do something for me. And I think
Right.
that's where maybe a lot of people in similar situations like us that don't have a better grasp and don't internalize, they sort of struggle with because there's a lot
Yeah.
of external noise of people not understanding why you want to do it, and then that adds to
Right.
you not knowing why you want to do it, because you have to clear all that external shit out before you can get to the root of it and go, this is why I am doing it or I'm not doing it. Um,
Yes, absolutely. I think that's even with anything that you're struck, like anything that's kind of when you grow up in a dysfunctional way and that dysfunction is normal. So the dysfunction is crazy, but it's your crazy. It's
yeah,
your crazy family. And that's just normal. You're used to these folks being crazy, right?
that's
And
right.
you learn to operate in it. But then once you decide, I don't want to live like that. And you know what? That really is crazy. I don't want to make that decision anymore. That's crazy. And I don't want to be crazy like them. I want to make my own decisions. And then the crazy people say, well, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Why? What makes you? It's almost like they're saying, what makes you think you're better than us to
Oh
where
yeah.
you can make a different decision than what we made? And it kind of gut checks you as far as like saying, like you said, it makes you go back and say, well, but why am I doing this? And
That's right.
reconfirming, I think it's an opportunity to reconfirm, why are you doing that? You're doing it because you want to make different decisions
Yeah.
than what other people have made, and you've seen the spiral it took them. You want to do something different. But a lot of times doing something different takes so much courage when you're wrapped around people and your life is created around people and your loyalties are created around family and all these people that are living in dysfunction, and you're saying you're choosing different. To be able to choose different takes a lot of courage, and to be able to stand on the reason, even if it's because I just want to do it, to stand on that reason when you're getting so much pushback from people who want to live in dysfunction, it takes a lot of courage to keep moving forward. And I know even with me making the decision to like write my book or tell my story or even just work on myself and confront some situations that had happened in my life that wasn't good. And now I'm asking questions about why was this allowed to happen? I got a lot of pushback. It was like, how dare you even ask these questions?
Right.
But it's like, it's my story. It's my story. It's my life. It's what I'm going to be telling my children. Why do I not have the right to ask these questions? And I had to learn that. Like, I had to come to terms with my why. Like you're saying, why are you making these decisions? I had to have a talk with myself to say, Fatima, why does this matter? And it mattered because I wanted to choose different, and I can't choose different if I don't even understand why the heck the bad decisions were made to begin with, you know?
Yeah, that is it. And like I said, I think that is what all external sources see. That they just see the like, why are you different? Like, why do you think you're
Right,
so special that you
right,
get to change? I think the amount
right.
of times that I've heard that from family, from friends, what you think you're better. Well, that's what I'm trying to
Right,
be. I'm trying to be better. That's exactly what I'm doing, and you're
right.
trying to displace that just purely by seeing a change in somebody that you put so much negative emphasis on, and it scares you because it means you either have to lift your game or you just fall behind. And
Yes.
it's a weird and bizarre world, uh, but unfortunately, that's the sort of thing probably even you found that you have to leave people behind. There's a part where you
Yeah,
have to go, the things that I'm doing, even though you don't understand them, are working for me. They're contributing to my
yeah,
mental health. They're contributing to my physical health. Like everything is starting to go in the direction that I saw it going in pre or like, post all of this, and I've sorted myself out. And you go, you either catch up or you fall behind. And they go, well,
yeah,
I guess they make their decisions as adults, but everyone tries to pull you back into it. I think
yeah.
it's a
And I
scary
think
place
it,
down there for everybody. So,
yeah,
um,
yeah, I think so. I think that it has to do with them also not wanting to face that. To your point, if you change and if they want to continue to be in your circle or in your life and they see that your life is changing or elevating for the better, they recognize it. It's not like they're blind. They
that's right.
see that you're making better decisions. They may not have the courage to make those decisions for their life. So it's more comfortable to talk about you than to come alongside you and for you to help them to grow as well. It's much easier to say, you're acting funny, you're acting better than them, or you don't have time for them anymore. It's easier to basically insult your future with details from your past. It's easier to do that than it is to give you credit for trying to change your life and saying, you know what, I want to change my life too. Can you give me some tips? It takes so much more humility to say that than it does to just talk about you for changing. But change is a part of life. Like that is life is ever evolving. You don't stay the same. We're not still 1, 2 years old. We change every
That's
day,
right.
right?
That's right.
Every day we get older.
Yeah,
So change is built into this life cycle. So for us to be growing in age, but not growing in maturity, it doesn't even make any sense.
it makes zero sense.
Yet we will keep ourselves, but we will keep ourselves stuck in the same spot because we're comfortable or because we're afraid of what will happen if we actually do the work to become a better person. For me, I was scared. I was scared of if I would like myself if when I changed. Like I was scared that if I worked through all the pain that was coming up and surprising me and the anxiety attacks I was having and the emotional connections to events that had happened in my life ages ago, and now they're coming back to haunt me in my 40s. I was scared that if I pulled back the layers on all this emotion that just kept popping up in rages and me crying and flipping out all over the place, if I stopped to look and say, Fatima, what is this about? I was scared that if I got down to the core of it and resolved it and then was able to let it go, if I did that with a bunch of different events, that I wouldn't know who I was anymore. Like I was so attached
Mm.
to the pain and to the anger and to the bitterness and to the unforgiveness. I was so attached to it. It had lived with me my entire life. So now I'm getting to a place where I have to make a decision to divorce this pain and anger and bitterness and rage and unforgiveness. I have to make a decision. And I was scared that if I said I'm letting it go, that this new Fatima, that I wouldn't know who she was and that I would think she was boring, like I wouldn't like her, and that my family wouldn't like her either. And so I was scared. And then I had to realize for me, my faith is important to me. And for me, I'm a Christian and I had to say, well, if God is showing you that you need to change, that you need to deal with this stuff, why would you think that He's going to allow you to be a worse than what you are now? Like, why wouldn't you think that you'd be a better person, not a
Yes,
worse
that's
person?
right.
And I had to kind of get it logical in my head that Fatima, when you work on all this stuff, you're going to be a better person. You're going to be a nicer person. You're going to be a more free person. You're going to be a more fun person, right?
Yeah,
Because I don't have all this baggage on me. But I had to work that in my head. And some people are afraid of who they're going to be on the other side. They're afraid they're not going to recognize who they are. And maybe lose some friends or just lose key pieces of themselves if they go through the work. And I'm just here to say that's farthest from the truth. If anything, you're going to feel more centered. You're going to feel like you have peace in your heart and in your mind, and now you can take on different projects and different aspirations because you have the room in your heart for it to lay. In the beginning, you had all this junk in your heart.
that's
You
right.
can't be used fully with all the junk in your heart. So you got to go through the work, right, to be able to clean that out. But in the beginning, I was definitely, I was scared because I just didn't know who I was going to be once I got rid of all that pain. It had been with me for 40 something years.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What was your moment? Was there a particular moment where you were just like, "This has got to fucking change"? Like there is something like just wrong. Was it over like a period of
Yeah.
like obviously it's over a period of time, but did you just have like a
Yeah.
one-off defining moment where you're like,
Yeah.
"I'm gonna strip it. I'm gonna strip it all back. I'm gonna start again, and I'm gonna work on building it up better."
Well, it was if I don't go get help, I think I'm gonna kill myself
Yeah.
because I don't know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my moment. Like my moment was I had been on medicine, like you say, it's a process. I had been on medicine for clinical depression for 10 years.
Yep.
And it had done its work. It had helped me for the most part to be balanced emotionally, right? As people saw some changes in me, I think I became a better person. But I had become more and more um the medicine just wasn't helping enough. I was just becoming more and more unstable. And I got to a place where I relocated to Ohio, and I didn't have my friends. I didn't have my busy life like I had. I didn't have the different programs and projects that I was working on when I was in my other town. I'm in this new town and it's quiet. And for the first time in like 8 years, I was not busy. So
Yeah.
I had got to a place where I wasn't busy. And when I stopped in that moment to not be busy, all these thoughts, it was too
Mm.
quiet. I can't even explain. It was just so weird. And it's like all these thoughts that I was able to suppress with busyness, all the thoughts that I was able to quiet out with friend dates and dinner and
Mm.
alcohol and just hanging and all of that. I didn't have that. And the thoughts were so loud. I didn't know how to shut them off. And I really thought that I was losing my mind. And it was so scary. I didn't even know how to share it with my husband. I didn't have anybody to share it with in town. Like I didn't know what to do. And I truly was in my car thinking, God, I feel like I'm losing my mind. And that was my moment because that was the scariest I had felt in I don't know how many years. And I didn't recognize myself. I truly thought I was losing my mind. And that scared me enough to where it made me go talk to somebody.
Yep.
And I went to therapy because I needed somebody to tell me I wasn't going crazy. And it was in the process of going to therapy and getting help to get through anxiety attacks. That by then I was having anxiety attacks 5 days out of
Oh shit.
7. And I was at work and chest tightening up and crying at my desk. And I'm on a new job and I'm crying. And it's
Yeah,
like, I said, I'm going to lose my job. These people going to think I'm crazy.
that's right. That's right.
And it was that moment, honestly, that was my moment where I truly felt if I didn't go talk to somebody, that I wasn't gonna, like, I was gonna go to sleep and wake up and be kind of like a schizophrenic. Like, I didn't think I was gonna know who I was. I really did.
Yeah,
And I was scared into it. Like it was fear that got me to go to therapy. But when I went to therapy, I was able to work on. Um, at first, it was just being able to cope with the anxiety, and then coupled with I had found a church, and for me, that was very critical to me because God has always been for a very long time a central part of my life. So I needed some grounding. I needed some foundation. And so I found a church, and they had a program in place called Celebrate Recovery. And I don't know if you guys have that where you're at, but it's almost like in any state in the U.S. You can find a Celebrate Recovery program. It's like a Narcotics Anonymous, but
yep,
it has 12 steps. But it's for anybody with hurts and hangups. It's not about alcohol or drugs. It's just about if you have something going on that you can't let go of,
yep.
this is the place for you.
That's great.
And so, and it was a step-by-step program, meaning like a 9-month program. We go through 4 books and it forces you to look at the hard truths of your life. And so with therapy and with the program working together, and plus my natural prayer and meditation with God, that is what helped me to truly face all that trauma that I really thought was just a part of life. I didn't look at it as trauma. I just looked at it as that was just my life. And but it helped me to get the courage to go back and look at that stuff
Yep,
and acknowledge the stuff that was not my fault and to let it go. And then acknowledge some horrible behaviors that I had picked up because of the way that I grew up
yeah.
and having to check that, and it took some work. It was not easy, but I was determined to change my life because I just didn't know who I was. I felt like I was going crazy.
Yeah, there's it does create like this huge imbalance in your brain where it's called cognitive dissonance, where you struggle with who you are and who you want to be, like who you are in that present
Yeah.
moment, and then that person that you know you can and should be. And then
Yeah.
attached to that comes anxiety, and attached to high levels of anxiety all the time is depression.
Yeah.
And it really spirals and it gets out of control. Here in Australia, it's a bit of a funny system. We have access to things. Some of the access isn't great. I was talking to Kai on Sunday, and Kai is transgender, um, and he struggles with finding somebody that he can connect to. We don't have particular programs attached to certain things. Like, they are out there, but in terms
Yeah.
of just walking into a place and having a chat, I
Yeah.
think it's a little bit harder here. But
Okay.
so I think here there's a lot of self medicating. Um,
Yeah.
as you may know, Australians drink a lot. And I think it's just become one of those natural things. Like you said, it's not even just on a family level where it's like push it down. It's on a nationwide level of if you know just like you said, bury yourself in something else.
Yeah.
Like, you go to your job 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Friday night you go out and you get as hammered as you possibly can,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah. Yep.
Saturday you're too hungover to do anything. Sunday you're trying to catch up on the 2 days you just lost, and then
Yeah.
by then you're back at work. And there's no, like you said, there's no space to clear your headspace. There's no
Yeah.
time accounted for it. There's no time where you're going to go, all right, I am going to sit down for 10 minutes and really work through this. You don't have time. They just
Right.
keep pushing and pushing and pushing. So
You just keep going and it becomes a routine because I lived it. I lived
yeah,
it where it was like, for me, my thoughts were just so loud. And I don't even want to just say just random thoughts because it wasn't random. It was, for me, it felt like screams. It felt like
mm,
my pain was screaming at me
yeah,
and it was in my head. And so I was trying to quiet the screams and nobody could hear them but me. And it
yeah,
drives you crazy because it's like nobody else can hear it. And so the busier I was, it gave me something else to focus on. When I was around my friends, I was always that kind of extra
Yeah.
person, the loud person, the fun person,
Yeah.
the live person. And I think it was also a way, it was a medication for me. It wasn't just trying to be the person to be seen in the room. It wasn't that. It
Mm.
was a way to, it was almost like an overcompensation for the sadness I was really feeling. So I would go up to 10 in my personality. But in
Oh yeah.
actuality, on the inside, I felt like a zero.
Yeah.
And so I would just come alive, and so I would put myself in positions and in atmospheres where I wasn't alone a lot. And
Yeah.
the only time I was really alone was when it was just I was so tired, all I could do was just knock out.
Yeah.
So anything that would stop me from having to think. And that would be if I wasn't able to do that, then I wanted to get a hold of alcohol, or I wanted to get a hold of any type of sleeping pills or something that would induce me in a place where I didn't have to think, that my thoughts would relax. And I lived like that. I lived like that for years. And I thought nothing was wrong with me.
Yeah, but as I was saying, it's like that has become a social norm. It's become this thing
Yeah.
where it's a bizarre way to look at the world, but everybody does it. So
Yeah.
many people live that 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Friday, go out and get as hammered as you possibly can, and they don't see it as an issue whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's created so it's normal now. And if you don't do it, you're the weird one. Why aren't you going out?
Yeah.
Especially when you go from so like you, I was at to a 210. Take it all the way to the top and just be that loud. Try it would speak to anybody. Would always turn it up to 11.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if I could just come back to my house, and like I used to have people over at my house on a Sunday just because like they'd be like, let's just go to yours, and me going, wanting to not be by myself. Yeah, everybody come over, and you got work at 5:30 in the morning, and you put everything that contributes like healthily to your life to the side just to not have
Yeah.
any noise in your head.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
if anybody listens to this and they're immediately going to relate to just that sentence, noise in your
Yeah.
head, because
Yeah.
it is absolutely crushing. And
Yeah.
unless you know how to break it down, it gets louder and louder and louder and
Yes, it
louder.
does. It really does.
Uh,
And for me, that was a scary place because I didn't have anybody to tell me how to deal with that.
mm-hmm.
And in my culture, I mean, it's the truth. A lot of African Americans, we are not encouraged to go and talk to anybody. I grew up in a generation where it's in our lineage to be whatever happens in our house stays in our house. We
Yeah.
don't discuss it with other people, no matter how painful it is.
Yeah.
And so we just didn't have that avenue. And even though I knew about therapy, even though I knew about going to a doctor to tell them that I needed help because I was depressed, I knew a little bit that I was just sad and I wasn't getting
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily know it was clinical depression, but I knew that I was sad a lot. But even the fact of thinking to go to the doctor and have them to help me, that was a huge step to take. And I didn't even tell anybody. I didn't tell my fiance, who was my husband now, but I didn't tell him. And I didn't tell my relatives or my mom until about 6 weeks after I had been on the medicine because
Yeah.
I was scared of what they were going to say. And it's just, they were supportive, but it's just to have that fear. It was realistic fear because we normally don't deal with mental health. And so what I learned, I mean, I had gotten to the point where the voices or the screams of the pain was so loud in my head that I just wanted to suffocate myself to make them go away.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with my family. It had nothing to do with that. It's just I'm living with this every single day in my head. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
People don't understand how exhausting it is to have to ignore that and move on with your day and be functioning. That takes a lot of energy. And so I was just exhausted from fighting. And it's important for those that are listening or who are viewing in to understand that it won't go away
It will not.
no matter how much alcohol you use, drugs you put in your body, no matter how busy you make yourself, it will not go away without help. You have to find a way to get some type of mental assistance. And even if it's virtually, the 1-800 numbers, or somebody that's offering something online, or some type of free program. If you're on a waiting list, keep trying, but do whatever you can, and focus on meditation, maybe techniques. Just
Yeah.
try different things. Not everything works for everybody. So you got to try to figure out what works for you. But there's got to be some way to find some type of help to avoid going to the deep end, to
Yeah.
me, like I was. I feel like I was close to the deep end.
Yeah.
And to the point where I don't even think that my family knew just how close to the deep end that I was. And I think that's why it's important that I talk about it,
Yeah.
because it helps me to not feel ashamed. And I hope that it helps other people to not feel ashamed. This is what we deal with, you know?
Yeah.
And it's normal, and just because it's not talked about doesn't mean it's not normal. And but you got to get to a place where your life is more important than the agony, or your life is more important than the shame that you may feel if you talk about it,
Yeah.
or your life is more important than than just what people will say about you. It's got to you got to matter more than what people will say.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a lot of courage for somebody to admit that they are in pain in a way that you can't see it,
Mm-hmm.
and that they need help. I've had close family members to me tell me that I was weak because I was questioning why certain things were allowed to happen to me as a child. And I was explaining how I felt it damaged me as a grown up. And now I'm working through that mess.
Mm-hmm.
And when I challenged it, the person most closest to me told me that I was weak, and that broke me,
It
to
does.
for somebody so close to me to tell me that because I was asking questions about decisions that were made that I wasn't allowed to make, that people made over me,
Mm-hmm.
that I was considered weak. It broke my heart. But even in that brokenness, where I was crying and so upset about what somebody spoke over my life, I still understood that what I was doing, if anything, I was strong, because it takes a strong person to be able to acknowledge that there is something that happened to them that wasn't right, that they want to look into it, and acknowledge that they have been broken in places because of that event that happened in their life, and that they want to get better. That takes so much courage than it ever does to stay in it.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I had key people around me that could help carry me, and to help confirm what I felt in my heart, that I'm not weak, that I am strong, that I am victorious, and that I'm a damn queen. Because you have to earn that title to be a king or queen. You got to go through some type of trials, and
Gotta
I've
go through
gone through
shit.
those trials,
Yep.
and I faced them head on, and I'm trying to make better decisions for my future and to help others along the way. It's a king. That's how you become a king or a queen. And so to say that I am weak is a complete blasphemy.
Yeah.
I'm a queen, and anybody that takes on those type of trials in their own life, they earn that crown, and they should wear it proudly and do what they need to do to save their life.
Yeah, I think anybody who calls somebody weak for expressing themselves and trying to to unload, they're just projecting, and you're the weak one. You know what I mean? You're the weak
Yeah.
one for calling somebody else weak
Yeah. Yeah.
for trying to buff out their stuff.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
once again, I think it is that I would have probably done the same back
Absolutely.
when I was younger, trying to be that hard ass. And somebody's like, Josh, I'm not liking this. I'm like, suck it up, man. You know, because that's all you get told to
Right.
do.
Yeah.
But it does affect you monstrously when it is somebody who's meant to be on your side, who's meant to be
Yeah.
close to you. And it takes a lot reflectively to go, maybe they're feeling something too, but at the time you can't
Yeah.
think or feel that. Um, yeah, it's. I think that's why like things like this are fantastic. It is. It's an open forum where it's not swayed or skewed in any way. It's raw. It's coming from two people who have experienced it and two people who are coming out the other end of it. I
Yeah.
think people need to acknowledge that, like you said, not everything works for everyone. And that sense of failure will stick with you even when you're trying to make yourself better. And I think people need to acknowledge that
Yeah.
it's not failing. You've tried something that doesn't work for you, but really give it a
Right.
go. Move on to the next thing if you have to. If
Absolutely.
If certain things don't work, there's a million other things you can do out there to sort of mitigate this and to realign yourself back onto where you need to be. So I think it's the whole. It does get better. It definitely does. But sometimes it gets a lot worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
And you need to hit. For me, I needed to hit that point. I really needed to hit that bottom to make a substantial change in my life.
Yeah.
To
I
completely,
think everybody does to some degree. Like in
yeah,
anything that you're doing, you can't tell a knucklehead what to do.
that's right.
You can't, you can't.
It's not gonna
And
happen.
I mean, you can, yeah, you can give encouragement as much as you want, but until that person hits a place where they say and they believe it with everything in them that they want to change something, whether
Yeah,
it's their job, their mate, they don't want to be with the person anymore. I mean, whatever it is, whatever the key decision that needs to be made, you can't you can't manipulate or move somebody to make that decision and it sticks. They have to make that decision like in their own timing and through their own convictions.
that's right.
And so and usually that comes with some type of rock bottom,
Yeah.
in different facets. It just depends on what the situation is. And so we all have our different rock bottoms. But I also think that it's important. I just know for me, I feel that even though I know the things that happened in my life that brought on my anxiety and depression,
Yep.
me dealing with those things did not take away the anxiety and depression because it's like it's like a habit, it's like a pattern, it's like a chemical thing. I have I can't even explain it that well, but the point is that although I dealt with the events, there are still residue or byproducts of the anxiety and depression. And
Hmm.
so for me, I had to take another look at how I allow that I look at it as a thorn in my side, how I allow that thorn to direct my life. I cannot allow anxiety and depression, even though there are times when I deal with it, definitely not as much as I used to since working through my traumas
Hmm.
that I had experienced as a child and working through them as an adult. Honestly, I have not had the horrible bouts of depression like I used to. I really haven't. But that being said, I still take my medicine.
Yep.
I still have moments where I get anxious and I have to use my breathing techniques to make sure that it doesn't get worse. So I feel that I still have to fight against anxiety and depression, just not as much as I did prior to working through my stuff.
Hmm.
But in that, just because I still am attached to it, it doesn't mean that I allow it to run my life. You know, I just have to make
Oh no.
sure that I have true techniques that work for me, that when I'm starting to feel like I'm going down that rabbit hole where it's so dark and I'm having a hard time climbing back out, before I see when I see that hole visually in my head or in my feelings, I feel that I'm about to go down that rabbit hole and can't come out of it. I start working on those things that I've
That's
been
right.
given as treatments to help me to go around that rabbit hole. Or if I get down the rabbit hole a little bit, I know how to get out before I get too far down. So I still have to use techniques. I still have to lean on what I've learned, but I also have to live my life. I don't allow this thing to take over my life. But in the beginning, it consumed my life. I couldn't operate. I'd want to stay in the bed. All I thought about was ending my life. I'm not in that space anymore, but I'm not also in a place where I can say that it is no longer a part of who I am. If anything, I feel like it allows me an opportunity to take that thing, that thorn in my side, and use it in a way to show compassion for other people who deal
That's
with
right.
anxiety and depression, and to say, I refuse to allow it to run my life. I refuse to allow it to reroute my destiny. If there's
Yeah.
something that I want to go for, I'm going to go for it. And if that means that it brings extra anxiety, then that means maybe I need to do more exercise, or I need to meditate more, or I need to pray more to help balance that out. But I refuse to allow it to control my life.
Yeah. That's it. I think just touching on what you said, um, there's a weird perception of when you go through this stuff and there's all this trauma and you're dealing with this process, that there's a different feeling at the end of it. And then you attach these to certain achievements in your life that if this happens,
Yeah.
this will work out. You know what I mean? And we always associate
Yeah.
what we're feeling on the inside. And like you said at the start, you generally attach it to things. You attach it to your job. If I get a promotion, I'll feel better.
Yep.
This feeling that I feel will go away. To be fair, it doesn't go away, but you can definitely handle it a lot better. Like you said, it's not as crushing.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people out there, they try and do that. They try and go, I need to feel better. And I think the more they try and feel better and control that better, they'll go, all right, well, how do I feel better? I'll get this partner. This partner will help me. Or I'll get this job. And once I do well at this job, this feeling's going to go away. The feeling
Yeah.
only goes, it doesn't go away per se, but it does, you can control it a lot better. Like you said, you find things, instead of finding things to make it better in terms of these life things that you think you're meant to go through, find it in other places. Meditation is fantastic. I've recently started meditating and it is brilliant. It is good for just clearing the shit off the desk, just and
Yeah.
then get out of here.
Yeah.
Physical exercise, also another fantastic thing for doing that. It's these things where you can switch that noise off for just a little bit, where you can go, all right,
Yeah.
bring it back in. So I think if,
Yeah.
like you said, if people are listening, that is it. It's the feeling doesn't go away, but it is less loud. Um,
Yeah.
so now that you sort of you've come out and you're very public about this, how does that impact your life now? Like with your kids, with your partner, with your family?
So I think overall, I think it's been an adjustment for everybody because that's just how change is. I definitely am in a different space. I think I'm in a more peaceful space, a freer space, and I'm so grateful for what I feel on the inside because I haven't felt this. I guess liberated is a good word.
Yeah.
I haven't felt this liberated. I don't think ever. I feel like I'm in control of my life. Like I feel like I'm in control of my story, and I never have been.
Yeah.
My entire life, people have told my story, whether it was my parents, or relatives, or my ex husband, or whoever. I just feel like whatever people viewed me as is what I took
Mm.
on, and that was just my story. And I got to a place where I finally said, I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to share my story how I want to share it. I'm going to tell it from my viewpoint because I lived it,
Yeah.
and I'm going to change it. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to take control over the direction of my life and my emotional state, all of it. Who gets access to me, who doesn't,
Mm.
who gets personal access to my mind space, my personal space, all of it. Who I'm taking control of that. And I don't think I ever have in my entire life thought that I could take control of my life. And we've heard it on every commercial. We've heard it on
Yeah.
every,
Tony
every
Robbins. Yeah.
interview. I mean, everywhere, right?
That's right.
But I never, it just never clicked in my head. It's like it just never did. I knew that I could change my outfits and change my car, change my home, change all this external stuff,
Yep.
but I never truly bought into the fact that I really could change my life. I really could change the way I view things. And working through a lot of the baggage of my life, some that people threw on me, some that I took on myself. Working through that mess helped me to see that I really can change my outlook on a lot of stuff if I just put in the work. So I really feel liberated. Writing my book about my life and just the steps that I took to get to a place of healing helped me feel that it was an extension of therapy for me. And I feel very proud of that. Me being able to actually walk through publishing it was one of the scariest things that I had
Yeah.
done because I knew that when I did it, and I'm sure you can understand, I knew I was going to lose some family.
Yeah.
I knew that I was going to lose, I knew that I was going to lose some people that were close to me because even though it was never said, don't talk about it, there was an unspoken rule, don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And I talked about it.
That's right.
And so I knew that I was going to lose some people. And that part was scary, but I had to make a decision. Am I going to stand up for myself, or am I going to show loyalty to dysfunction? Am I going
Yeah,
to show loyalty to dysfunction?
that is
And
so
I chose for
perfect.
the first time in my life to stand up for myself. So I feel real good about myself. And I just think now it's a matter of my family adjusting to who I am. And
Hmm.
I think it's been to some degree sometimes challenging because I don't handle things the way that I used to. And I think it's expected for me to.
Yeah.
And when you blow up and they're used to you, now I haven't done this in a long time, but I still have done it.
Hmm.
Picking up a chair and throwing it or cussing somebody out or whatever. They're used to that type of outrage. And I don't really do that as, like I used to. I'm really truly trying to change my life. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I really am trying to make better decisions for my life. And I think that that takes an adjustment on everybody, especially those people who are used to you being like, and you're not
Yeah.
doing that anymore. They have to learn a new way to deal with you. And so it's an adjustment, but I think it's a good adjustment. It's a necessary adjustment, and I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for how God has changed my life. I'm grateful that He gave me the courage. I think the courage that we have grown up with, Josh, as far as getting through all the mess that we've gotten through, the heart that we got, like the toughness that we got, the grit that we got from going through that mess, because you can't be soft and go through the type of stuff we went through and be on the other side of it. That same toughness is what God used to help me to have the courage to face it. And that
Yeah.
same courage is what was used for you to be able to turn back around and face that big demon or whatever it was, that mess.
Yeah.
And I'm just grateful that I had the courage, no matter how scary it was. I'm glad. I'm so grateful I had the courage to do it, because no matter how anybody views me, I know that I'm freer for it. You know,
Yeah.
I know that when I go to bed, I sleep good. I
That's
really do.
that's it.
I sleep good.
And
You know?
that is, I think, because that was going to be my follow up thing. I think I'm sort of on like a similar timeline to you. Me being in my 30s now, I'm turning 33 this year. It's really starting to just really shift. Like I'm really shifting gear, and it's like even me starting this podcast and saying some of these things that I've said is the
Yeah.
first time that I've really openly spoken about it. Before it was like I'd try and talk about it, and then I'd feel shut down, or I'd feel whatever. And then later in
Yeah.
my 20s, I'd start to talk about it with close friends. But now it's like the first time I'm really like opening up about it, and it is,
Yeah.
as you said, it is fucking terrifying. Um,
Yeah.
because it's gonna irk people the wrong way, and these people have had such a controlling stance over your life for so long, and it's one of those
Yeah.
things. I think any type
Yeah.
and people apply abuse to just physical. There's emotional abuse too, um,
Yeah.
where it's like as soon as you stand up to them, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to react, so
Yep.
they react the way that they always do. But
Yep.
as soon as you deny them that, that's when they sort of start to change. And it's this, like
Yep.
you said, it's this weird. You turn around and you face it rather than it pushing you along, and you're living your life being all constantly pushed by fear and anxiety and
Yeah.
stress. You turn around and you face it, and then when you start to face it, you realize it's not that bad. It's not that
Yeah.
scary, and once again, you sleep well. Because I used to
Yeah.
sleep like a bucket of shit. I'd get
Right?
4 hours a night. I'd be tired, and it just adds. It all
No.
rolls over, and you'd be tired. Your brain doesn't work. Like you're just running on
Right.
fumes every single day. And once again, you just keep burying it under something else. You're like, oh, I'm going to
Yeah.
work harder, and I'll get up earlier and go to work earlier and work a little later because I can't sleep anyway, so it doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
But
Right.
god damn it, it's good to get
Right.
8 hours. Fuck.
Yes. Isn't it? And it's restful sleep. It's not
It-
troubled sleep.
yeah,
And it's just something to be said about that. And there's something to be said of having peace of mind. We don't give enough credit to having peace of mind. But
yeah.
I don't know how we don't when there's so many people out there who ain't got their mind.
I don't know what
But
they're doing.
it is so much to be said to having, peace of mind. And I mean, that is such a priceless commodity, man. And you can't I don't think people can really appreciate that until they've walked in our shoes where we really felt like we was losing our mind. You
100%
don't know how blessed you are to have peace of
peace of
mind.
mind. Yeah.
And I'm grateful that I have peace of mind no matter what people say about me, no matter what people have thought about me. And I'm so grateful for how people have come alongside me and have the reviews that I've gotten on my book, and just being able to be so raw honest and it's being accepted. But I also know there's that other side that may never be accepted. But I don't even worry about that because I'm so grateful for how I'm being used in such an awesome way just by being open and sharing my story, that
That
it has helped so many other people, and they've shared their stories. And it's just one of those moments where you have to sit back and say, imagine if I never would have spoke.
yeah.
Imagine if I would have shrunk and said, no, I'm scared to lose loved ones, so I'm not going to talk about this. Imagine if you wouldn't have done your podcast. Even though there may be people who aren't where you are, and or where we are, and aren't in a place where they're ready to face their hard truths. That doesn't think about the people that need this. Like, think about the people
Yeah.
who are listening and who are being helped and who are getting a seed of hope and healing by listening, and you using this platform to not only give therapy to yourself, but to help heal other people, and give a voice for other people. And I just think that that's a beautiful thing, and it shouldn't be taken lightly.
Definitely, definitely. So what's your next move? What are you planning, say, for the next 10 years of your life? What are you hoping to
Ha!
do?
10?
Yeah, let's just
10?
say let's just do 10.
Oh
Let's
my
let's
God.
let's get crazy. It's what is it? Monday
10, that's a
morning
lot.
here.
So,
Just to be
oh my
fresh.
God. I guess I would say my kid already says that I'm close to 50 because I'm 46. I tell him, shut up, you don't know how to count.
You look good for
Um,
46, by the way. I
Thank you.
I look horrible for 33. I'm got these wrinkles
No, you
going
don't,
on. I'm
honey.
falling apart here. Uh,
No, you don't,
uh.
honey. I
So
would say that I'm definitely going to be writing another book.
yep.
I'm actually in the process of right now, just doing a lot of journaling and just really trying to figure out what I feel like God wants me to talk about, and just really just working it out before I start to write it. And I hope that in the coming years, I'll say at least in the coming years, that I'm definitely doing, I guess, some motivational speaking,
Yeah.
and just really being in a space where I can just come alongside people to help them heal by sharing my story on a larger platform. So
Yeah.
that's really what I'm looking forward to. But honestly, I guess maybe it's just being I'm a humble person. If I know what keeps me going and what keeps me encouraged is knowing that I truly am touching at least one person, and I know that to be true.
Yeah.
And so that part is what encourages me. And so I really, for 10 years, if we want to say, this may sound cheesy, I hope not, but I really do mean it. I really just want to be doing God's work in whichever way that He sees. And I really just want to be so in tune with myself, um, that I'm okay with whatever happens. I'm okay if people come in my life, leave out of my life. If my kids love me or hate me, if my husband leave me or no or stay,
Mm.
that truly I'm okay because I know that I'm doing what I'm destined to be doing. I
Yeah.
think our purpose changes based on our maturity. I think our purpose changes based on our availability, meaning our spiritual availability. I think our purpose in life changes. But as that changes, I just want to be in line with my creator so that as he changes my purpose, I'm just like, okay, I'll go that way. Okay, I'll go to the left. Whatever he wants me to do, I want to be available. And I think the only way that I can truly be in tune with that is to continue to work on myself, continue to give up stuff when he shows me my faults, continue to say, you're right. I screwed up there. Let me make that right. Or when he shows me that I'm enabling someone, or when he shows me that something is not my fault, so stop owning it. That even in that, I say that's not my stuff, that's your stuff, and I'm letting it go. And that I truly can walk in a space of freedom. I haven't my entire life. My
Yeah.
entire life, I've lived a captive life, regardless of if I was living on my own or not. I was still in chains. I was still captive by sexual abuse and physical abuse and mental degradation and emotional torment from people, like you said, that controlled my life. Even though they wasn't even in my home, they still controlled the way I thought and they controlled the way I made decisions. And so for the first time in my life, I just want to truly walk in freedom. I really do. And if I'm doing that 10 years out, then I'm living damn
You're
good.
doing something. Yeah, that's right. You're doing something great. I think it's
Absolutely.
so for me, like I'm not religious, but I can really relate to what you're saying in terms of a path.
Yeah.
There's something just really just ingrained in you where you can feel like you're doing something right, and whether it be
Yeah,
for one
absolutely.
person, and one person listens to this and goes, "I'm gonna change my life based on this,"
Yeah.
then it's done. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, and that's exactly how I feel. I think if you get to a point in your life, and I think if people who have experienced something similar to we have, or regardless of how you want to see it, use your
Yeah.
voice, start speaking about it, stop allowing these people
Yeah.
who don't know their path to speak for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just let it be known that
Absolutely.
you're not comfortable with things and this is not okay. And
Yeah.
like you said, I think if we start it, it'll be more of a movement where people can do these things. They can come and speak about it without that
Yeah.
just fucking deeply seated fear of losing something, or something being yelled
Yeah.
at or whatever. So
Right. The shame,
the
it's a
shame,
re-victimization.
that's
The
right.
shame, feeling shame for speaking up for yourself. Stop being muzzled and speak your truth, man.
Yeah, and I think that's all we can do as humans. And I think as crazy as life is around the world right now, especially for you guys are going through some shit over there. Fuck. Um,
Right?
God damn. I don't know what how much of it is true, or like like exploded out by the media, like expanded on just to sell. But holy shit,
Yeah.
you guys are going through some stuff
Yeah.
over there, and I think it
Yeah.
is a time where people can fucking stand up and they can make change
Yeah.
and they can start pointing, the world in the right direction in terms of this shit is not okay, and the people who have had control over it, they're not going to last. These
Yeah.
people who do
Absolutely.
this stuff and do abuse, and it's not going to fucking stand anymore. And you guys
Yeah.
won't have the most powerful voice in the room. It's people like us that will.
Right.
And I really
Right.
hope, like I said, this is the start of something where people go, this is it. I'm going to make some change. Um,
Yeah.
and that's my wish out of all of this, I guess. I do.
Yes.
Usually I wrap it up after an hour. Do your plugs. You got a book?
Yes. I have a book. It's
Where do we
called The
find it?
Prescription is Yeah, it's called The Prescription is in the Dirt. Here it
Yep.
is right here. And it is on Amazon, an ebook version as well as paperback. And
Awesome.
I also have a website. It's fatimac.com, fatimac.com. And you can find, of course, a way to purchase my book, of course, but just keeping tabs on me and just different interviews that I've had, some little blogging. I'm not my commentary area about understanding of who I am. But I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Reddit as Fatima C. Oliver. So yeah, definitely look me up. If there's anything that you've heard that was encouraging that I've spoken, please support me and purchase my first book. The Prescription is in the Dirt,
I'm gonna buy it.
and leave a review.
I'm
I
gonna
got my
buy it.
first review.
How was it? How'd
Yeah,
they
well,
go?
that'd be awesome. I got my first UK review. It was pretty cool.
It's
From UK. I have several in America, but it was my first UK one, and I thought that was pretty cool.
that's crazy, right? What a wild feeling that would have been. Just getting a
Yeah, that was
review from
cool.
somewhere that I don't know. Have you been to the UK?
Then I didn't even know that it was over there.
That's
It's just
right.
pretty cool.
No, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
but
I'm
yeah,
100% going to buy the book. I'll buy paperback. I don't like I'm
I
not a,
know. Yeah, I'm a
not a,
paperback person too. Like I need a real book.
yeah,
So
same.
yeah,
I think I
but the
engrossed
world
myself
is
a lot more now.
different. So all those digital folks,
Go out
ebook
and get it on
folks, hey,
ebook. You can get
go
it
ahead and
right
get
now.
it.
Get it right now. Don't wait for it. Don't
Yeah,
wait for a physical copy. Go out, read it on your phone. read it
Yeah.
anyway. In fact, just do whatever. All right, Fatima, this has been fantastic. I'm going to do a little bit of learning myself, a little bit more soul searching, but I would love to have you back on. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, maybe soonish, maybe later.
Absolutely.
But this is fantastic, and once again, hopefully it starts to create a little bit of change, and hopefully we can be the
Yeah.
voice of that at some stage, and support other people who also need it as
Yeah.
well. Um, Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's
Be
all
the
I can
change
say.
that we want to see. You're
Yep.
welcome. And let me know whenever you want me. You know how to get in touch with me. Let me know.
Alrighty, Fatima. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You're welcome.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much. Go check out Fatima. I know you can see this. Don't worry about it. Everybody, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much.